Today, we're going to be talking about probably one of the highest debated, biggest topics in American culture today. Today, we are talking about gun ownership. For all intents and purposes, I'm going to define what owning a gun means. That means that you have in your possession a firearm or some sort of weapon that shoots bullets, or some sort of explosive material that would be considered a gun within the government standards. That is what gun ownership means. For the sake of the argument that people should have the right to have those guns, to have firearms, to have weapons in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment of the United States states that a person has the right to bear arms. This arms was defined, of course, back in the 1700s and early 1800s as people who had muskets but it was the intent was to give people an ability to defend themselves. That was the point. Now, this has spurred massive controversy over the last several years because ever since the 1930s and after World War II, where more technology came out for guns, there's become more powerful weapons. Those powerful weapons they can cause more damage. A more powerful weapon like an assault rifle or a grenade launcher would be considered more dangerous. And it is more dangerous because it can do more damage than a musket that you can load about every 6 seconds. I mean, I do think they are more dangerous. And we're living in more dangerous times, I would agree. But also this is meant as a form of defense. I mean, you don't see people walking around with lightsabers fighting each other. Right? People don't do that. But there is a trend that you can see, and I have found two of them. So there's been several databases and several studies on the gun violence and mass shootings over the years. And if you look at this one, the mass shootings in the United States, a measure, and it has a whole bunch of different measurements, one by the FBI, one by the active shooter incidents in the United States, also by the FBI, mass shootings in America from Stanford, and then you have on the Jones, a U.S. Mass shootings data set from 1982 to 2015. But it seems that all sources, now this was provided by the society pages, go and check them out. So this is mass shootings in America, and mass shootings have, as you can see by this graph here, there have been more shootings. Violence on mass shootings definitions have increased over time. And as technology gets better, it becomes easier to do a mass shooting. So one argument is to limit those weapons that can do so much harm. Another one by Econ Browser has done a study from 1982 to 2017 over the mass shootings. This is the Mother Jones, another one, to show that there's been an obvious increase in gun violence. And there has been, therefore, as some people would say, a need to restrict or put more safety procedures of guns to help slow that down or decrease the amount of shootings. So right now, our government is in a clash between two ideologies. And you can see this outplaying now when this video is being recorded on the 8th. I believe on the 15th, the Thursday. On that Thursday, there is supposed to be apparently new executive order from President Biden about putting more safety procedures for gun ownership, and then possibly you can look for yourself, because it's hard to weed out what's actually true nowadays in social media, or on news for that matter. It's hard to weed out the truth. But apparently he's also going to look to restrict or do stuff with big assault weapons. Plan to do something about it so that they don't cause as much damage. So the government is very prevalent in this society, and these two ideologies clash. You have one that says that the American Constitution says that you have the right to own a gun. You have the right to own whatever weapon that the government deems necessary in accordance with the Constitution and the Second Amendment. You have the right to bear arms. And then you have the other side that reasonably states that that amendment was written when guns were reloaded at 6 seconds. That those guns were guns that were horribly inaccurate. That those guns at those times couldn't do that much damage as compared to the assault weapons we have today. But this issue stretches further than just guns. It is the right of every human being to be able to protect their own life and protect the common good. The common good of the people, or the common good, is usually what determines what is right or what is wrong. The common good is usually what determines whether or not it is either good in society or bad. It is usually the middle ground that is considered, how we structure our society morally and ethically. And while you have one side of society saying that you need to have restrictions or more safety procedures upon guns or limit it, there is the other side that says a government can't do that. A government shouldn't have the right to take away other people's right of protection, because if the government can regulate it, they can take away the things that could destroy them. Because in accordance with the common good of the people, if the government does not uphold the good or the common good of the people, or does what is good for the people, and does not help them to strive for growth, and does not help them succeed with a better growing society, it is the people's right and their duty to reinstate a new government or make changes to that if necessary. And one of the ways, if the government is not in accordance with changing, is to take it by force. And people would argue that taking a government by force often requires weapons that can cause a lot of destruction. See, one of the arguments that I see from a lot of people, or I hear from a lot of people, is you do not need an automatic weapon to kill a deer, which is a lot of what some people claim that the reason why you need the right to guns is so people can hunt. But you have people that claim that you don't need an automatic weapon or a big destructive weapon to kill a deer. You're right. You don't need one to kill a deer. It's to stop the people who want to do harm to the common good of the people, or to stop someone from doing something bad. Now, I've given you a synopsis of what this is going to look like. Let's move into part 2. Let's start discussing the nitty and gritty of gun ownership. Hey, breaking news report. I'm giving you a breaking news report. Breaking my legs, more like. I'm giving you a breaking news report because right now we are doing a special newscast. Here, I am dressed in a suit to make me look more professional, so you believe me more. So, now I'm going to put on my glasses, which makes me look even smarter. And possibly, I'm not going to finish that. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about, well, it's dark outside. Well, getting there, mainly because the time the story came out, I officially have 0 time to actually do it. So, yeah. Alright. Yes, the sky is turning blue. Why? Well, it's turning nighttime because I have 0 time for this story. Anyway, so, Joseph Biden. So Joseph Biden, our president, has just instituted several executive orders, one of them being the red flag laws. And we're going to give you a clip of exactly what those red flags law starting now. Play the clip.
I wanted to make it easier for states to adopt extreme risk protection order laws. They're also called red flag laws, which everybody in this lawn knows, but many people listening do not know. These laws allow a police or family member to petition a court in their jurisdiction and say, I want you to temporarily remove from the following people any firearm they may possess because they're a danger and a crisis. They're presenting a danger to themselves and to others.
So, that's kind of scary, but let's do a little bit of explaining, because I actually want to explain exactly what those laws are. The red flag laws, in case you are ever so wondering, the red flag laws allow a person to petition a court. Petition a court means you could call the police, or you can have somebody that knows this person, or don't even really have to know the person. They can call in to a court or the police and say, you know what, I don't think this person is mentally stable. I don't think this person is mentally okay. And the person is going to go, okay. So the police then will come to your house without a warrant. You don't even have to be convicted of anything. The police can come into your home and they can seize any weapons that you might have that could be considered harmful to yourself or others. Okay? So here's the problem. There's only been several cases in history where things have happened like this, where I can report you because I do not think that you're mentally sound. And I can go to the government and I can say, hey, I don't think this person's mentally sound, therefore I want to take away their weapons because I think that they are a danger to society. Well, doesn't this sound, for all AP US history or any US history students, doesn't this sound vaguely familiar? I think you will find it vaguely familiar when you go back to the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials were ones that you didn't have to be accused of anything. They didn't even have to have proof. They would say, this woman is a witch. Why is she a witch? Nobody knows. It's because people don't like her and they just wanted, an excuse to get her either hung or even drowned. So here's the problem I have with the red flag laws. You don't even have to have a reason to even believe that that person is mentally unstable. You can just walk into the court or petition or whatever we call in, and let's say I'm your next door neighbor and I don't like you. I think that your political opinions are stupid, and I think that you are stupid, okay? And I don't like you. So therefore, I'm going to call up the local law enforcement, and I'm going to say, this person has a mental problem. I don't need to substantiate it or everything. I think that this person has a mental problem, and let's say you're an active, I don't have to do anything. I can call in and I can say that I think that they are, woohoo, and guess what? You can have your weapons taken away from you. Your God-given right to protect yourself and preserve your own life can be taken away. Now I'm going to remove these glasses in a sense of that I am becoming more fluent to you. It is a different talking stance to make you believe more stuff, because I, of course, want you to believe everything I say. So anyway, this red flag laws actually has huge implications, because it doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter, who they're. So on average, and I will put the source right here. Beautiful. There are about 13,000 to 14,000 homicides or mass shootings in the United States each year. On the flip side, something that no one ever talks about is the amount of defensive shootings, the amount of defensive things that using guns in defensive ways. In fact, it's averaged that anywhere from 1 million to 3 million, or even the lowball estimate is 300,000 cases each year that guns are used defensively. And if you don't believe me, well, if the suit does not already, pull you over, and the putting on the glasses and adjusting them just right, and doing the hand motions just right, well then my buddy back up in the studio will be sure to fill you in more. Yes, thank you, incredibly handsome young gentleman reporter. But actually, your numbers were a little bit off. You actually gave a little bit of a lower number than the actual estimate is. So, the actual number for the amount of defensive weapons used in America, drumroll please, according to this, quoting heritage.org, and according to the Centers of Disease, cannot read. Gosh, I'm horrible. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, almost every major study on a defensive gun found that Americans use their firearms defensively between 500,000 instead of 300,000. You got that wrong. And 3 million times each year. There's a good reason to believe that most defensive guns are never reported to law enforcement, much less picked up by local or national media outlets. And this is very true. Guns are used in a variety of methods of protecting people, but to better give an explanation on what our on-the-scene investigator was talking about, and just give a little bit more, in depth about this whole gun control thing, I'm going to show you a guy who I think is much more qualified for this than me. Been on the news this man has been doing news for years and has one of the biggest news-related YouTube channels out there. Please give it up, and I'm going to turn this over to Steven Crowder. Take it away.
Here's another thing. This is the most pervasive. This is the most pernicious. This is the most subversive. Take any adjective that you want. Red flag laws. He's implying here that they would reduce suicides, domestic violence incidents, This is the crux of what they want to do, because it grants them the most amount of control. And I will say this, red flag laws, as he is outlining them, would be the greatest violation of your fundamental human rights that we've endured in our lifetime. Let me be clear here, okay? Right now, if you're a violent felon, you cannot purchase a firearm. Right now, if you're a violent domestic abuser, you cannot legally purchase a firearm. Okay? These are already laws. And of course, there are background checks that already exist. The red flag laws, which by the way have been happening state to state, so we have some evidence as to how they've been abused, but he wants to set a national sort of template for a red flag law within 60 days and then make it easier and of course exert pressure on states to adopt it. What does this actually mean? A red flag law, he just said police or family member. Police, family member, friends, neighbors, doctors. Basically, they can say, hey, this person is a danger, and I don't think that they should have firearms. And so you, right now, having not committed a crime, having been convicted of no crime, charged of no crime, not even having had a trial or the opportunity to face your accusers, can have the police come into your house in the middle of the night and seize your firearms. And then later on down the line, maybe you get to go to court and a judge decides that we'll consider giving it back. This is a violation of due process. It obviously it completely disregards the laws that we already have. I also should have clarified, if you're adjudicated mentally defective by a court, we have that process right now. In other words, if you've already displayed behavior that you are a threat to yourself or others, they can take your firearms away. This makes it entirely subjective. No due process, no crime, no charge, your guns are gone. Well, let me give you some examples of states that have had them. So New Jersey, under a new red flag law, a man's guns were confiscated after his doctor reported him for leaving bad reviews and an agitated phone call due to severe post-surgery pain. Yeah, you lose your Second Amendment, you lose your God-given right to self-preservation because of Yelp comments. Rhode Island, woman called the cops on her husband A guy was named Edward Caligula. After an argument requested that they conduct a wellness check, the police deemed the husband to be an imminent danger to himself and others, confiscated his guns, and then requested that he went under a psych evaluation. The case is currently now in front of the Supreme Court. So this is something, this does happen. Look, and I understand people saying we want to be safe, and there have been some shooters who, they were on the FBI should have done something. I understand, but at a certain point, when people say, hey, if it saves one life, that's not an argument.
No.
And it's also a really bad argument because guess what? Firearms are used defensively in a minimum of 500,000 times to 3 million times in a year. You know how many homicides with firearms in this country per year? 14,000.
Yeah.
They defend far more lives than they take, and it is a violation of fundamental human rights to take away an equalizer from the most vulnerable among us, especially if they have not committed a crime. Look, I believe that all human beings are flawed and evil, okay? As a Christian, we are all inherently selfish and sinful. Donald Trump included, Ted Cruz included, DeSantis included, which is why I don't want them to have that much power.
Those are some good points. At least in my mind, I think that those are really good points, specifically how he points out like the flaws and how red flag laws tend to not deal in with the situations. And for these 500,000 to 3 million people, we're just not seeing that, help, which is, but it's good that it is up to the state. So, but in a story for gun defense that actually, so if you go to this this wonderful link that is right here, you can actually see a whole map of the United States. That whole map has little blue dots on it. That blue dot, you can go and you can click on and find where there has been self-defensive guns using, ones that have been reported to media or stuff. People who live in the Batesville area probably know about this. So in Indiana, in Batesville, which is like, so you're watching this video in at Oldenburg, which is literally just a hop, skip, and a pebble kick away. And the headline states, underage shooter acted in self-defense, killing Batesville man, police say. The 46-year-old man who was shot and killed when the police investigators arrived said that it was, quote, evident that it was a self-defense maneuver by the underage gun wielder. He was protecting his mother from an attacker who was holding a knife and was attacking the mother. So this child, who's underage, uses the gun and saves possibly his mother's life. We will never know for sure, but he uses the gun to stop the pain and harm that could come to his mother. So now is where we get into the big nitty-gritty of gun control. You see, here's the thing. If you claim to want to live in a free society, and a free society should be wanted by all, because a free society is one that gives the people the most freedom and gives the most benefits that can be seen for the common good. Because what is good for the common good is often individuals making their own decisions with having some sort of good backing with the government. And the reason why we have a government, this is quoting Miss Morgan Vincent, the reason why we have a government is because we're messed up. Humanity is just screwed up. Humanity is just royally just like, we have a government to help protect that and enforce laws because there are wackos out there. But also, there is a point where you choose ideals, freedoms, or you give away those freedoms for more protection. And this is one of the main arguments being argued. It's just like, well, for the sake of the life, or the on average 14,000 lives lost due to homicides in a year, for those lives, you should be able to give up the right, or at least have more restrictions on the rights of firearms. And I understand that is a good, sound argument, except for the fact that if you really do, if let's just pretend for a fact that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention actually has some truth to what they say, if it is in 500 to 3 million times a year, if you have a substantial gun reform where you put lots more, restrictions on guns, you're going to be able to reduce this number. And that means more lives are going to be lost. Because the fact of the matter is bad guys or just bad people in general will always do bad things. We have what in anthropology, the study of humans, you will know that humans fall on a spectrum. You have radical people, you have very non-radical people, you have people who try to stay out of politics, you have people who like to dwell in politics. We all come in different forms because we are all humans and we are all different. Now we have all similarities. I share similarities with people liking the same kind of music. But we all are different. And it is that difference that makes us unique. And being unique is important. Being who you are in a society is what makes societies run. But if we want to live in a society, which we claim that we live in a democratic republic, we live in a democracy where we claim that we want to live as free humans within a society. If we claim to want to live there, that means sometimes we have to put ideals above our own lives. Take, for example, soldiers who go out and fight in the military. They go out there, they put their lives on the line for an ideal. They put their lives on the line for other lives. All right? The thought of fighting for an ideal, the thought of fighting for one's personal beliefs is profoundly, I would claim, probably pretty Western. Just look at American history. Breaking away from the British Empire. Feeling that people need to be free from government tyranny. That was because they wanted to separate from this tyrannical government and were willing to die for it. Because they were willing to die for an ideal that is above what I would claim above the plane of existence. It is such a good ideal that we try to reach it. We try to transcend to it. So when we apply that to gun laws, all right, you've got to be able to let people keep weapons that can defend themselves. Because here's the sad reality of it. With this study of humans, both radical and not, crazy, sane, everything, you're going to have bad people. And bad people will do bad things and will continue to do bad things. See, here's the thing. And I've heard it proposed by even some of my classmates where they're just like, we don't want assault rifles. We don't think that should be allowed in the United States. Assault rifles, no, don't let it only for military. Okay, I understand that. However, because of things called the black market and things where you can just go and have somebody make you a gun out of parts, like when they're talking about ghost guns in the government right now, when you're talking about ghost guns, here's the thing. You can make a shotgun with a metal can and some copper wire. Granted, it is not safe, and I would not expect you to do it, but it'd be a fun science project. I almost did it. That would be a bad idea. Do not do that. If you outlaw, like, assault rifles or put really big restrictions, you're putting the restrictions on the good people. You're putting the restrictions on the people who are going to follow the law. See, if I'm a bad person and I don't follow the law to begin with, what makes me think that I'm going to follow that law specifically for that? I'm not. That just would not make sense. So they're going to go around. They're going to go around the law even more. And because of those gun restrictions, then the good people who are actually following the law are left more defenseless. When it comes to gun ownership, it is not a matter of political opinions. It's not a matter of what I think about other people or what I believe about what I think of their beliefs are. It's about protecting other people's lives from the people who are going to do them harm. And in the interest for everyone, and the interest of lives that are good following the law, for interest of lives that are going to make a difference for the better, to help better society, you want things to be able to protect those. Because if you don't, then massive amount of innocent people die, right? So you have around 14,000 mass shootings in America within the last, just for a year. But you also have 500,000 to 3 million of defensatory shootings that also protect. Because we live in a society where there are bad people, and because we live in a free society where we are not at the beck and call of the government, because we all know how that works. All you have to do is study any sort of history where you look at communism and look at like Russia and look at Stalin and look what he did. You don't want the government to have that much power, because as the old adage goes, power corrupts. And the more power you give someone, or the more power you give something, the more corrupt it can and potentially will become. Therefore, you use weapons, you use guns to have that strength, to have that ability to fight back and protect. Now, with owning a gun, that does not mean I am not for negotiating things like, let's say you want to own a super powerful weapon of some sort. Maybe they have like a class that you can go to or something where you understand the weapon better. There's one thing I think we have to realize is guns don't cause violence. They don't. They're a tool. They're the same tool as if I'm driving a sports car. I can drive my sports car, my Tercel. Vroom, vroom, vroom. All right? I can drive my car and I can hit people. Like, let's say there's just this old lady walking down the road, and let's say I just really despise old women and I just go and boom, just pound her with my car. Yes, you would kill her, yes. Now, do you make cars illegal because of hitting pedestrians? No. Guns don't kill people. Bad people kill people. All right? And if you take away the guns from the good people who do good and follow the law and protect each other and try to better society, then you're just letting it fall into the hands of people who are just going to go more sneakily around the government and get their own weapons while the good people are defenseless. And might I also point out that during World War II, the Nazi regime decided, well, before the whole Nazi regime, before when Hitler started gaining his power in Germany, he had a lot of firearms removed. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but he had a lot of firearms removed and had massive gun restrictions. Those were in his master plan so he could move forward with his plan to conquer. He blamed the scapegoat on the Jews to get the German people riled up so that they were blinded with anger. They were blinded with hate. He, in a way, was controlling the media in such a way that he made a scapegoat so that while everybody's hatred was focused on one thing, he could use that hatred and develop it and push it in another way. That another way was to bring Germany into the full Nazi regime that it was known back in the 1940s, 1941, that the US entered the war all the way up to 1945 when war was declared over. But as I said before, part about knowing about guns, part about understanding guns, is understanding how they work, all right? Now, for the final segment, we will have an explanation on how guns work. But till next time, I'll see you guys later.